Well everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Samsung Galaxy S24 and compare it against the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 5 and see which particular phone is the better one for you. Now the thing I would definitely tell you is between both these devices, they're both very different, and I don't really think I would recommend one phone over the other, more so than the S24. I think for the average person, the Samsung Galaxy S24 makes a lot more sense. Really the only benefit I can think of with the Z Flip 5 is the folding mechanism if you really like it, or maybe the fact that the Z Flip 5 is a little bit cheaper now in the used market. If you're looking brand new prices, the Z Flip 5 is basically more. I would not recommend buying that phone for the average person. I think the S24 is probably the better one for you. But if you want to pick up that phone or some other phones I recommend buying this year, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these phones, let's start off with the Z Flip 5. This particular phone is kind of giving you like two different panels. So on the front, it's giving you this 3.4-inch Super AMOLED display, and on basically the main display, it's the 6.7-inch foldable dynamic AMOLED display. It's a good panel, it's 1080p. The only problem with this panel is that it's like a little bit of a different type of panel it looks like. So because it is foldable, this type of panel is a little bit of a different technology, which can be kind of annoying. So if we're looking at this particular device, the viewing angles I would say aren't really as great as something like the Samsung Galaxy S24. The panel itself is not the best either. Like we're comparing one of the best panels you can buy in this day and age versus something like the Z Flip 5, which just it's just not that great. So take it as you will, but that's probably one of the bigger issues you're getting with something like the Flip 5. On the Samsung Galaxy S24, this is a 6.2-inch dynamic LTPO AMOLED display. So a few things going on here. One, it is 1080p. It's a smaller panel than the Z Flip 5, but it's still 120Hz, and it is giving you a much brighter panel at 2600 nits of brightness. It is a substantially better panel almost in every single way that I can think of over the Flip 5. So take that as you will, but if I'm looking at both phones and if I'm comparing both phones, I'm definitely going to be getting a better phone on something like the Z Flip 5. I'm definitely getting a better panel on something like the Galaxy S24 over the Z Flip 5. So take that as you will, but that's another kind of big thing that's going on for these particular panels, at least on the front. On the bottom, USB Type-C ports. Both of them do not have headphone jacks or microSD card slots, so not a big deal or anything, but that's just like one other minor thing to kind of keep in mind there. On the back sides, depending on how you look at it, it's a little bit of a different styling. So on the Flip 5, again, it's like the frosted glass back kind of with the screen at the very top. With the S24, standard frosted glass back all throughout. I like the Flip 5 because it does have that, screen, so it's kind of nice. It's a novelty, but definitely the S24 is the more practical phone, and having a non-foldable phone makes a lot more sense for a vast majority of people out there. So once again, take that as you will, but that's probably one thing going on for this particular, phone from that particular perspective. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. Pricing wise, because the Samsung Galaxy S24 just came out, this is like around a $700 to $800 phone, 700-ish in the used market, but mostly around 800 in the brand new market. You can always get deals and trade-in deals and all that stuff for this phone, but the Z Flip 5 is probably going to be the cheaper one. This phone is about like $500-ish, I would say, in the used market. On Amazon, they're about like $510, which can be kind of cool because you're able to buy a phone that actually has a pretty good chipset, like very good performance. It just is also a foldable phone, which may be a pro for some people, but that also can be a con for some people as well, depending on who you are. So that right there is like another funny thing going on here. I would definitely tell you from a pricing strategy point though, something like the Galaxy S24 probably makes more sense because one, it is cheaper in the used market, and two, these things probably will hold their value, they won't hold their value as good as the Flip 5, but you can probably find someone to buy that phone sooner than the Flip 5. Somebody looking for the Flip 5 is few and far between. S24s are very, very popular phones. So that kind of covers it up there. In terms of the camera quality side, we are getting a very different styling here on the cameras, which is probably the biggest reason why I think the S24 is so much better. On the Z Flip 5, you're getting a dual camera setup. 12 megapixel wide and 12 megapixel ultra wide camera. The S24, you're getting a triple camera setup, 50 megapixel wide, 10 megapixel telephoto, and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera. It is a substantially better camera you are getting on the Samsung Galaxy S24 than the Z Flip 5. For one, you're already getting that additional telephoto lens. That right there is a very cool feature to have, and that's something I like a lot about these phones, that they have telephoto lenses. Two, you're getting 8K capability on the back of the S24, which again is a flagship type of feature. Z Flip 5 only goes to 4K at 60. Majority of users out there probably are only going to get tapped out of 4K at 60, but it still is a very nice touch to have that 8K capability, because that right there is a very important thing to have. On top of that, the front camera, you can do 4K at 60 on the front of the S24, Z Flip 5 only 4K at 30. So once again, that's just another minor thing to keep in mind there too. Not the end of the world, but if I'm going to look at a phone, if I'm going to recommend it to people, definitely a phone like the S24 has a substantially better camera in almost every single way than the Z Flip 5. On top of that, the other big thing is that social media applications are going to be substantially better inside of the S24 than the Z Flip 5. So I do think, once again, if I'm going to recommend a phone to people, the Z Flip 5 just doesn't cut it for me. I think for the amount of money you're spending on it, you're much better off even buying an older, like 2-year-old Samsung Galaxy S series over this thing, in my opinion, or like last or 2 years ago Plus series, in my opinion. So that one doesn't really make much sense to me, to be completely honest, either from that side. On top of that, from a software longevity perspective, this is another thing. From the difference from the 2023 phones to 2024 phones, Samsung has been killing it in the software department, and they are basically giving us, 7 years of software and security updates on our S24. That is a massive improvement and a massive feature upgrade over the Z Flip 5. So once again, if I'm going to go and buy a phone like the S24, I'm going to be getting a phone that lasts like twice as long as the Z Flip 5. So why would I buy the Flip 5, right? That phone is not going to last as long as the S24. Even if I can buy a Flip 5 for half the price, if I'm going to keep the phone for twice as long, it might make more sense to buy something like the S24. That way that phone can last a little bit longer than something like the Flip 5. So take that as you will, but that's kind of like another minor thing that I've seen. It's not the biggest deal in the world or anything, but that is one thing that I've seen a few times here and there. On top of that, when it comes down to these two devices, the performance is another pretty big difference. With the Z Flip 5, we're getting that Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset inside with 8 gigs of RAM, but with the S24, we're getting that Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 chipset inside with 8 or 12 gigs of RAM, depending on which one you choose. Now here's the thing I'll tell you about these two phones. The performance of these phones, if we're looking at the base models, there's really not that big of a difference, if I'm being honest. Both these phones are very great. They have a lot of stuff and a lot of capability behind them, and I definitely do think that right there is a very cool thing going on. If I'm going to buy a phone, I definitely want it to be a phone that has, either the 8 Gen 1 or newer, or the 8 Gen 1 Plus and newer, and both these phones have chipsets that are newer than both of those. So that right there fits the criteria. The Z Flip 5 is a very good performing device. This is an excellent performing device in a lot of different ways. If I'm going to go ahead and buy a phone, this is a really good option. I definitely do like this phone, and from that side, it definitely gets a thumbs up for me. With something like the S24, this is a better performing device that I can think of. If I'm going to go ahead and recommend a phone to people, it has to be something like the S24 because it is the better performing phone. If I'm going to go ahead and buy one, why wouldn't I recommend the S24? It's a better phone, has better chipsets, and it does have more RAM if you want the top tier model. So in every single way, the S24 is the better performing one. But if the S24 was a 10 out of 10 in performance, the Z Flip 5 is a 9.3 out of performance. It is very close. You're not really going to be getting this big discrepancy between the performance, and I wouldn't really go from the Z Flip 5 to the S24 for better performance, to be honest. There's 30 other things to kind of upgrade for. So to kind of sum it up, what I will definitely tell you is, I definitely think the Galaxy S24 is a better phone than the Z Flip 5, and I even think the Galaxy S23 is a better phone than the Z Flip 5. Last year's phone is better than the Flip 5. The only reason I would recommend buying the Flip 5, if you really want to, is to have a folding phone. If you don't care about that, please just go and buy the S24. It is a better phone in every way. Same thing with the S23. The S23 is a better phone than the Flip 5 in most ways. There really isn't a way the Flip 5 is better. Go for the S24 and you're going to be doing yourself a favor, in my opinion. So that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.